What is up, you guys? Happy Wednesday, or happy whatever day it is that you're watching this. Today we have a really interesting topic to discuss. We are going to be going over what it costs to build your dream van. So we're talking about the pictures that you see on Instagram. We're talking about just the ultimate visualization that you have when you see yourself traveling around like the free spirit that you are. If you are looking for a budget-friendly build, this probably isn't the best video for you to watch. However, if you're just curious to know what it costs from a DIY standpoint and from a professional build standpoint of the actual cost that it will be to build out your dream van, then this is absolutely the video for you. We are going to be talking to the local legend, 70 Savage. He is one of the most amazing DIY van builders that we know. We're going to be talking to him about what it costs to build his 2 vans that he has been working on. And we're also going to go over with an entire pricing spreadsheet with you, the one that we use at Vanland with our clients when we are talking about the custom build and the price and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and see what the guys are up to.
When we were making this video, I wanted to find the best builder that I know that is a DIY builder. And fortunately, I have somebody in my town that you guys may know if you're one of his 40,000 subscribers. Welcome to Vanland today, 70 Savage.
What is up, guys? If you are not familiar, I am also a van builder like this guy, but I'm doing it a little more independent. I've built 2 vans so far, I guess like 1.5, and they're all on YouTube, so it's fully documented. You can find it on 70 Savage if that's what you're interested in.
If you're a DIY builder and you want to know who does the type of van that's like the van you actually want with all the cool stuff in it, this is the guy to look to. He does everything and he does everything right. That's what I always respected so much about his videos. And he takes you along on the journey. So if there's mistakes, you get to see them. If there's successes, then you get to celebrate with him. I just wanted to sit down today and talk with 70 Savage about a few of the things that are harder to figure out when you're starting a van build, like specifically how much is it going to cost. So let's sit down, have a beer, do it.
Cool. Cheers. Cheers.
We're making this video specifically so we can help people like get in the ballpark about how much a van build is going to cost, because I think there's a lot of information out there that's a little bit misleading. Right. And also I know that when people are just starting to look for what kind of van they want an awesome van. I mean, they want one that's like looks great on the outside, is totally stylized on the inside, has water, power, sleeping, shower, bathroom. That's the type of vans that you build. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask some questions of you to kind of help people get in the ballpark of what this is all going to cost in terms of time, labor, tools, and a couple other things. So yeah, I guess that'd be my first question is, do you have an idea in terms of what the cost was for you, parts, labor in terms of hours, and then also specifically like tool investment to get to where you are?
Okay. There's a spectrum, right? And so it depends on like how much you want in your van and what you want to do with it. Do you want to live in your van full time and have like the same comfort level as a house or as close as possible to it? You're going to be spending DIY, similar to my van now, probably like $130 or $140 all in. But we're talking one of the most expensive vans in existence.
Is it true that you have 1,000 amp hours of lithium power in your van?
Yeah, 1,000 amp hours of lithium, over 10,000 kilowatt hours, and yeah, powers a full 12-volt air conditioner, powers everything you could possibly want. I'm gonna have an induction cooktop in there. Lights can run for like a week. I've accidentally left my lights and fans on for like a week straight, and it drains it by like 2%.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's insane.
So when you say 130 to 140, is that parts and labor, or how are you figuring that?
Just parts, but
okay.
That's because if you guys haven't seen the van build that I'm doing, it's truly insane. So like, don't get discouraged by that number. My last van was about half the price, or potentially even a little bit less than half the price. It was probably like 65, 70,000 bucks. And it was pretty dang nice. Like, it had the shower, it had the bed. We had some, you know, cool engineering aspects in there where the bed system kind of slid in half and the shower came up from underneath. It was a 144, just like Jeremy's right here, and had a toilet as well. It was pretty comfortable. It was not full-time living comfortable, but it was pretty comfortable. It didn't have any of the off-road parts, which cost a ton of money, as you know.
In terms of labor on your first van versus the current van, do you have an estimated number of labor hours you put into it?
Yeah. Once again, Jeremy chose to interview somebody who's very like, I spend way more time than the average person. So if I were to guess how much time like the average person spends on a van conversion, it's probably 300-400 hours in total between design, choosing your parts, and then putting it all together and having a van that you can use. But I do it as a YouTube channel, and I am super passionate about it. So I spend countless hours just sitting in the van, staring and taking measurements, like over and over
I can relate.
and over again. And so my last van took like I can't even remember what I quoted it at now, but it was a lot of hours. It was probably close to 1,000 hours as well, because I had literally no idea what I was doing. Which is part of the cool part about van builds. For me, the building is part of the adventure.
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
Probably how it is for you.
No,
right?
it's definitely an adventure. Now that you're on your second build, you have most of the tools you need. How much did you invest up front?
Surprisingly little. I actually have a video on like the top 10 tools, and I chose DeWalt up front. I did some research on like all the different things that mattered to me about a tool company. Definitely pick a brand up front and do your research up front, because if you just walk into the hardware store and buy the tool that's the cheapest, you're stuck with that brand. There's a lot of like vendor lock-in with tool brands. I probably spent $1,500 total on all my tools in my last van. But you know, I was cutting long straight pieces with a jigsaw at the end of that build. So it was sketchy a little bit.
Right
It worked.
A big question that I know people want to know about your builds, and every build, how long do you estimate start to finish from the time you basically turn the key on to the time that it's done?
So for me, I still work full time, and my job is super time intensive. I try and like intertwine van building with that job. I think if you have a full-time job, just plan for a year, like straight up. There's a ton of misleading content on YouTube. Like I'll tell you that.
Totally.
When I got into this, I was influenced so far in the wrong direction that it was going to take me a month or 3 months. I honestly don't know how that's possible. I don't think that those people are lying, but I think they have some sort of resources. Like sometimes you say, oh yeah, my dad's a carpenter. It's like, oh yeah, this guy just like slayed out the entire van build. I would not expect less than 6 months, hands down.
Yeah, even in a professional shop, I think a minimum to do, again, we're talking about a build that has pretty much everything. It's the van that you want when you see the Instagram pictures.
Yeah.
That's 6 months in a shop as well, and due to parts availability, it could definitely be a year. I would say if it's your first van and you actually expect it to be like, well done, have everything in it, a year is kind of a minimum. At some point you'll get so frustrated that you just bang it out.
Yeah, it's true.
But otherwise, yeah, I think that's an accurate time frame. Last question I have for you is, what advice would you give to a newcomer who's, thinking about doing a van build and also definitely considering doing it as a DIY build?
Couple things. First thing I did not do, and I totally regret not doing, is rent a van. Find a company that rents vans near you and go out for a weekend. Like, it doesn't have to be some extended trip, and just experience that van build, because the amount of learning that you can get from spending a weekend in a van build is way more than you can get with 1,000 hours of watching YouTube, which is what I felt like I watched before starting mine. Second thing I did do, and I recommend, is do a consultation with professionals. Do you do consultation?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Call Jeremy up, ask him about all of the things that you do not know. Like, don't call him first thing. Watch your hours of YouTube videos, take notes, and figure out the things that you still can't connect the dots on, the things that you don't understand. And I called 2 people to consult with them just to get 2 different opinions, which taught me so much and made me so much more comfortable actually going into the van build. So I highly recommend you spend a few $100s, right? Like $100 an hour, $150 an hour, whatever it is. It's totally worth it. You are going to save that money by an order of magnitude just learning from somebody else rather than like trial and error. Building a van is very much trade-offs. Like every single decision that you make is a pro and con with something else that you get. And it's a matter of balancing like the upsides of all of those trade-offs. Like you can't have all of the upsides. You get some of the upsides and some of the downsides, and that's just how it is when you're living in like 100 square feet of space. And that's something you learn when you start actually like pulling out the screwdriver and pulling out the drill.
Yeah.
There's a lot of professional van builders out there, whether or not we put this in.
Yeah.
And there's a varying level of build quality. You want to make sure that you trust whoever is building your van, and I would trust this guy to build my van. So
Awesome.
that's you know, you got to make sure they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's and doing things that are actually going to last. There's a big difference between a van you get and looks fantastic when you get it, 6 months later looks like a pile of trash, versus something that's going to last years and years and years. I don't know about you, but like the idea with my builds is the build outlasts the van.
Right.
And if you can do that, then I think the van has a lot of value to it.
Katie, come back in.
I get to be in this video. Let's head back to the office to go through the massive spreadsheet that Jeremy has compiled for you guys. We'll go category by category about cost, labor, everything.
Hey everybody, we are back in the office, and I wanted to take some time to go over our costing sheet with you. This is basically the resource we use anytime we start a new build with our clients. And the purpose is just to kind of lay out all the options to build a Sprinter van in terms of all the different parts and pieces that you can select. And then just to give a general estimate of the cost that's going to be associated with each of those items so that the client can get a total cost in mind before starting. I want to start out by saying that this will probably not be a video for everyone. If you're somebody who's looking to do a van build and you want to do it more on the budget side of things, then this is probably not the right video for you. If you're looking for a van with no compromises, then this is the video for you. I just see too many videos online that underestimate the cost to do a build, and there's often a mismatch between the picture that they show or the picture that people have in their minds and then the cost associated with doing it. Basically, this is going to be a fully off-road capable Sprinter van, and it will be something that has a livable and comfortable interior and made with basically all the best quality parts. Haven't necessarily selected the most expensive parts in every case, but definitely we're using parts that have shown over time that they are durable and functional and that they're basically worth putting on the van. All right. So let's jump right into it, starting with the outside. And actually this is often a major part of the cost, is all of the stuff that goes on the outside of the vehicle. It can often cost up to 25 to 30% of the total build. It's just stuff that you attach to the outside. So for instance, a roof rack, a ladder, and side steps are pretty much a given on every adventure van. I wouldn't really go without a roof rack. There are just so many things that you can do with it, putting equipment on it, hanging out on it for sunset. Looking at a roof rack, then of course you need a ladder. If you have the four-wheel drive van, you definitely need side steps. It's just really difficult to step up otherwise. You can get exterior accessories like a cargo carrier and a tire carrier to add some additional space on the back to store things. Really, you're kind of moving things to the rear of the vehicle that might otherwise be placed inside or underneath, and just making more space to do things with. Front bumper with a winch and some lights on it is a really cool thing to add, and certainly for an off-road vehicle you would want those. Fog lights and load lights and awning is something that we definitely recommend as well, and we put on most of the vans that we build. A few other things in here. Vehicle wrap is something that's definitely optional, but can add a really cool look to the van and make it sort of stand out. Wheel and tire upgrade. Certainly if you're going off-road, you have to get the wheel and tire upgrade. The factory rims and tires are basically not off-road ready, to say the least. So for most clients, we're replacing those. And then finally, a suspension kit. If you're looking to truly go off-road, then you're going to need additional suspension, especially if you're adding a bunch of weight to the vehicle, which we are. Moving on to the flooring and seating. You're not going to use the factory floor, so you have a couple different options. A standard floor, as I have it, is something that you build basically out of wood and then a finished material. and that's fairly simple. The smart floors are becoming really popular, and essentially this is a floor that has tracking in it that allows you to put in different types of seats or maybe attach different things to the floor safely. So a smart floor is something that we're doing a lot of, and I will include it in this build. And then next we have seating, and you have a couple different options here. We really love the clip seats, which are basically captain's chairs that go in the rear of the vehicle. They mount into the smart floor and they can move around. And then with that, you could also potentially get a convertible bench seat. So this is a bench seat while you're driving and then converts into a bed at nighttime. The power system I've kind of specified here is a typical one that we do. And you can definitely go with a much bigger power system, or you can definitely scale it down, but this is basically the standard that we do for a 144 Sprinter. It would have 300 amp hours of lithium power, a couple 100 watt solar panels, charge controller, battery combiner, inverter, shore power connection, and then of course like a panel with fuses and switches on it so that you can turn all the individual components on and off. The electrical system itself, as we call it, is the wires, the fuses, and the breakers, and the things that basically go behind the walls. And then you're also going to want to put in several USB outlets or 110 volt outlets around the van. Next, moving on to windows and ventilation. We're a big fan of the flare space flares, especially for the 144 wheelbase Sprinter. It just allows you to sleep east and west rather than north and south. And so we do that on most of the 144s that we build. In the flares, you can put bunk windows. If you want the flares to match the outside of the vehicle, they'll need to be painted. Also, typically people want to add a couple other vented windows besides the small slider windows that would be in the flares. So think like a CRL T-vent window or an AMA vented window. Those usually you're going to put one behind the driver's seat and one on the sliding door, so we're adding them here. Rear door windows. I'm actually a big fan of having windows in the rear and a rear view mirror so you can see out the back when you're driving. You know, people have different opinions on that, but we're including it in this build. Okay, next, a roof fan is basically a must. That's going in. Sunroof, we're doing more of those. They're really great on the inside. Having that extra light is really fabulous, and you can often put them over the bed and look at the stars at night. The downside is that they do take up space on the roof, and you have to cut a hole in the roof rack, which kind of limits the amount of things that you can store up there. We're also going to include some window covers, so all the windows can be blacked out and insulated at night, and then window trim, which kind of depending on if you do flares or not, ultimately you're going to need some window trim, so we're including that. And next, air heater, diesel heater, definitely going to include a water heater. We do our water heaters a little bit differently than other people. We actually use a heat transfer off of the engine cooling system. So basically there's hot water every time you drive without using propane or battery power or anything else. It's just there every time. And actually we're going to be doing a video about that soon. So if you guys want to see how we do our water heater systems, which I definitely think is the smartest way to do it, then subscribe and you'll get a notification when the video comes out. Also, in terms of HVAC, air conditioners are becoming very popular. If you live in a place that is low humidity and doesn't get very hot, then you might not need one, but otherwise you probably do. The air conditioners that we use nowadays are all 12 volt direct connect to your batteries, so no inverter needed, and that makes the air conditioner much more stable and require ultimately less power. Moving on to the water system, let's add a freshwater tank, a gray water tank, a water pump, an accumulator tank, and an outdoor shower. Also, I'm actually a big fan of having indoor shower and toilet in a van. I think a lot of people will disagree with me on that, especially for the 144, but I'm somebody who has lived in a van at least for a week or two on end, not as a primary residence, but when you are staying more than a couple days in a van, or you're using it truly to like live out of, at least for a given amount of time, then I think having the shower and toilet, at least for me, it's a must. Of course, you give up space in the van that you could use for other things. We'll put in a toilet, a couple level sensors, so that you know the level of the water in your tanks, water filter, and then the plumbing system, which is all the piping, the valves, and so on and so forth. All right, moving on to the interior components, you're definitely gonna need sound deadening and insulation, wall panels and ceiling panels. You might want swivel seats added, wheel boxes, which are essentially boxes that cover the rear wheel wells. That's aesthetically, it just kind of finishes out the inside, but also it's the place where you're gonna have your power system and your water system stored, so we'll include those. We typically include some L-track on every build, so I have an allowance for that. The overcab shelf, which is basically over the driver and passenger seat, there's a significant amount of unused space there that if you put a shelf in becomes very usable, so we'll do that. And an interior lighting kit, which is typically at least 6 lights in the ceiling, but then might also be some blue lighting here or there, or a light in the shower, for instance. Okay, when it comes to beds and furniture, this is where things kind of start to get a little bit more on the custom side. This build out specifically that I'm going over with you guys actually has a minimal amount of custom cabinetry and other custom parts on it, just because that's the stuff that actually gets really expensive and it takes a long time. There's nothing more seemingly overpriced or expensive to pull off than doing some custom cabinetry inside your van. If you do it yourself, it's expensive. If you send it out, it's expensive. And it's just one place where if you can buy something that's already like prefabricated, like a prefabricated bed or a galley or cabinets, and it's really worth it to just get something that is gonna be known to fit, and then you're just gonna save a lot of money. And finally, moving on to the cooking and refrigeration. If you wanna add a refrigerator that runs off of 12 volts, a sink, and a cooktop, there's a lot of different choices. I've just included an allowance for the typical ones that we select for our clients. This is somewhat of a comprehensive list, but I'm sure that you guys can find a bunch of things that I didn't include. I know that I have all of the main parts that are required to build a van in here, but if you want other interesting things like different electronics or sound systems, all that's gonna be on top of the cost here. But I know that this is at least a tool that will get you a full build and one that, you know, has everything you want in it. All right, so basically in terms of the total here, the grand total here for all of the parts that I have listed is just over $94,000, and the total labor is about 518 man hours. This is what we would estimate like in a professional shop. If you're somebody who plans to do all this yourself, I would say you could probably double that. If you don't have experience, then you're gonna spend at least twice as much time. Obviously, this isn't a professional shop, and the guys have all the tools and parts and experience that they need to do it efficiently. Yeah, in general, add 50 to 100% to the labor if you plan to do it yourself, especially if it's your first time. I hope that helps you guys. I just wanted to go over the costing sheet that we use to help determine what the overall cost of a build is gonna be. Keep in mind that this is 2021 and these prices can change fast, but otherwise, thanks for going over this with me. It's a lot of fun for me to sit down with clients and talk about their dream build, and I hope this gives you an idea of what it will cost to build that.
That is it for our video today. Thank you guys so much for joining in. We appreciate the love and support. We hope that you guys found this helpful and it gave you a lot of realistic information about what this process actually entails. So have a fabulous whatever day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye guys.
That was awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, off the camera, I really do appreciate it.
For sure, dude. Yeah, happy to do it. I'm happy to support you, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, what you're doing is super cool.
We'll do a ski trip in Lake Tahoe with 7-0 Savage, and there's a chance that both of our vans might be done, but I would say probably not. At least mine. He's way ahead of me. This one, it looks good on the outside so far, but the inside is like, yeah, it's still a box.
The outside's important because that's what motivates you. Like every time you walk by it, you're like, oh,
that's
okay,
my van.
I want to work on that.
Right.